Hail YouTube, Dominions, Doomentites, and Arch-Villains! Thank you all for supporting me in my effort to save pop culture. And I would ask you please check to make sure you are still subbed, turn on your notification bell, and if you are not subscribed, please consider doing so. This channel could use your support. Thank you, and enjoy this video. Greetings, my friends. I am Dictor Van Doomcock, the future ruler of Earth, and I have been reviewing Star Trek Picard on my Friday Night Frolic live streams this season. Those of you who listen have heard my comments on every episode. If you didn't hear those, don't worry. I will be doing a full season recap of Picard when this worthless crap is finally over. But while holed up in the lair, I thought I'd go ahead and do a formal review of the latest desecration of Roddenberry's opus corpus, the 9th episode of Star Trek Picard called Are We There Yet? I'm kidding, of course. It goes by the pretentious name In Arcadia Ego. Those buffoons in the Star Trek writers' room love to cloak the idiocy of their writing with the grandiosity of their titles, as if smearing a little Latin over narrative dog shit could mask the scent. In Arcadia Ego means we got flowers in space, kids, when translated from idiot to English. And that tells you everything you need to know about this episode. So as we start this episode, the Romulans have figured out where Soji's home planet is, and they're on their way to destroy it and the synth civilization that spawned her. So of course, Soji knows a shortcut. She opens up a conduit, which is kind of like a wormhole that conveniently leads directly to her home planet. She jumps Rios' ship La Serena into the Stargate hyperspace cliché, and Narek, the undercover Romulan agent that slept with Soji but was a member of Zhat Vash all along, pilots his ship into the warp tunnel following them, which, like everything else in this show, is idiotic. Narek is part of the secret Romulan organization, the Zhat Vash, dedicated to destroying all synthetic life. So instead of broadcasting the position of this conduit so that the Romulans can send more forces through it and get there quicker to destroy the planet, he just jumps in himself to follow them. Like that's going to do anything other than provide an excuse for some lame-ass pew-pew spaceship dogfighting in a few minutes. It doesn't even serve to help give the Romulans the location of the planet, since they already know that location and are en route to destroy it now, albeit without the nifty shortcut which will allow the writers time to bore us shitless with exposition. So the ride through the conduit is a bumpy one. Agnes cowers under a cheap table as they jump to Soji's planet. They jump there rather than heading to Deep Space 12 as scheduled to rendezvous with the fleet that Picard demanded Starfleet send him to help against the Romulans, because Soji wants to go straight home, and because she's the mostest importantest ever. Who needs a bunch of Starfleet ships to battle the Romulans, right? So they emerge from the warp hole, and we get close-ups of everyone gazing in wonder at what is a perfectly ordinary planet. It's not like cool or covered with circuitry or anything you might expect from a synthetic planet. It's just another damn planet like any other, but they gaze in wonder at it as transcendent music plays, hoping we'll at least be impressed before they actually show us the planet. Agnes emerges from her table. I wonder why she wasn't safely strapped into a flight chair. Oh wait, no I don't. It's because this show is written by morons for morons, moronically. Silly me. So Agnes crawls out, goes to the vast open space they laughably call a bridge for some reason, and says whatever happened to Deep Space 12? Change of plans, says Picard. Well, how convenient. So now she won't have to turn herself over to be arrested for murdering Bruce Maddox. That's right, gang. They spend a whole episode trying to retrieve Bruce Maddox from Free Cloud, only to have Agnes kill him at the end of the episode, for no reason at all. Oh sure, Admiral O, the phony Romulan Vulcan infiltrator of Starfleet security, forced a mind meld on Agnes that showed her a vision of universal robopocalypse, a vision known as the Admonition. But you know that ship has sailed, honey. You didn't have to kill Maddox. Maddox already helped create the android civilization, so you're killing Maddox after the star cows have left the space barn isn't helping a damn thing. Killing Maddox does nothing to stop anything or save anyone. The damage is done, but see, Kurtzman, that lovable clown, he needed something dark and shocking at the end of the episode. So he just had Agnes kill Maddox in sickbay. Never mind the emergency medical hologram witnessed the whole thing. Never mind the rest of the crew didn't hear him being murdered. Never mind that Agnes and Maddox were lovers, and that since Agnes was Maddox's partner and herself an expert in cybernetics, she also should have killed herself by that logic. But yeah, Agnes just kills him, leaves herself alive, and absolutely nothing changes. Hell, even after it is discovered that Agnes killed Maddox, Picard says, "Well, we'll turn you over to Deep Space 12 to be prosecuted." And that's another reason they skipped going to Deep Space 12, so they can keep her on the show. To not have a fleet of ships to help fight off the Romulans, which is very important for this very obvious and predictable plot to unfold in this episode, and to avoid turning Agnes over to pay for her crime of murder. Little shit like that is why watching Star Trek Picard is like getting a lobotomy in suppository form. So anyway, they gaze in wide wonder at Soji's very ordinary home planet. We call it Capalius, Soji says, though in fact it is the planet commune in the California star system in the heart of the galaxy known as NPR. Suddenly Narek, whom Soji literally called a Romulan lounge lizard, more sparkling dialogue from the Star Trek writer's room, Narek jumps through the wormhole and attacks them. Not cloaked, not sneaking up on them, because no, that would be too smart. Nope, just charging and going pew pew like that's gonna do shit. Narek is shooting at them, but then Rios ridiculously flips back in a complete and total bullshit maneuver that simply would never work in space. I mean, he just wants to be behind Narek, so poof, magically he's behind Narek, the Romulan lounge lizard, and Rios shoots him. His cloak's fritzing out, says Rios. Only Narek wasn't cloaked, so what the actual fuck Rios is yakking about, I have no idea. But anyway, Narek is wounded on his Romulan fighter. They're gonna beam him to sickbay. But then, haha! Narek reverses his cloaking device, using it as a projector. Whatever that means. Like that would actually be a thing. And then suddenly, using the same magic Rios did, i.e. terrible writing, Narek pops up behind Rios and starts going pew pew again. So Narek is blasting them now, though oddly enough, Picard and crew seem to be taking no damage at all. But then Rios says, uh-oh, he's powering up his disruptor cannons. What? Narek is powering up his disruptor cannons? Then what was he using to shoot them before? If he has two weapons, one good and one bad, why not cloak himself until his disruptor cannons are charged up and then attack? Isn't it better to use the mean weapon than the nice weapon? And what's the point of having a cloak if you don't actually use it? So as all this nonsense is going on, the Borg cube comes through the wormhole, then a giant flower appears and engulfs Rios' ship. Yeah, you heard me right. A giant flower. Why? Because despite Soji calling it the planet Capalius, it's really the planet commune in the California star system, smack dab in the heart of the what the fuck galaxy. So despite the fact that these space flowers move slowly, as flowers are wont to do, and open slowly, as we know is the case with flowers, despite all that, and despite the fact that Rios is a crack pilot that can do magic bullshit maneuvers like appearing behind Eric's ship just because, Rios is helpless to avoid getting engulfed by the slow motion magic orchids in fucking space. And so Rios' ship gets caught by a space orchid and all the lights go off. And I don't mean just the lights in our minds we used to call intelligence. I mean the lights on the ship and the lights in the eyes of every fan of Star Trek The Next Generation all around the world. So these magic space orchids take the La Serena, the Borg cube, and the Romulan lounge lizard ship down to the planet. JL has a senior moment, leaning back with his eyes closed, and he forgets he's playing Picard, and instead he starts channeling Professor X and says, "Thank you all for coming." Picard speaks plant now, gang. And then I see in the credits that Akiva Goldsman wrote and directed this episode, and it all becomes clear. So Picard is taken to sickbay because he's channeling Professor X. Agnes scans him with an old tricorder since the power is out. She detects Picard's brain disease. He makes a speech to the crew about it, and everyone looks sad for about 30 seconds, and we get it over with. I would have been sad too if this was Picard instead of JL. But really, who gives a squirt of piss in a yellow downpour about JL? I just hope when his disease goes fatal, he says, "Engage," and then his head explodes from 6 different angles in slow motion with a laugh track. Because I hate this show for desecrating my memory of Jean-Luc Picard, and I wish the whole damn thing would go up in a burst of apocalyptic flames. So, back to the laughable plot. Picard and the gang are going to return Soji to her people, then warn them a Romulan force is on its way so that they can evacuate aboard the La Serena. Me? I'd like to evacuate all over this series, and I'm eating lots of fiber to help make that happen. But, back to the so-called action. So they're headed off to Robo City Central, or Capelli Station as it's called, when they see the crashed Borg cube in the distance. Thinking there might be a chance that Lamulus and Hugh survive the crash, they decide to go to the Borg cube first. Sure, why not? After all, there's a massive Romulan armada heading there to kill everyone. Who cares about warning the civilization of synths? We gotta go see if Lamulus broke his sword stick. So they walk to the Borg cube in a leisurely stroll in the California sunshine. And as you might remember from a previous episode, there's supposed to be constant electrical storms on this planet. Well, don't hold your breath waiting to see them. Constant electrical storms are too expensive to show on their budget, so they just go ahead and put a few stock thunder sound effects in there, even though it's a perfectly clear, sunny day. Then they forget about the thunder sound effects for the rest of the show. Seriously, they are that lame. So our band of phony Star Trek characters enter the cube, and everyone is fine. The Borg are wandering around. They say, "Oh, hey, Locutus." And of course, Lamulus survived, along with 7 of 9. "I don't believe it," Picard says. Yeah, neither do we. So 7 of 9 apparently opened up another conduit. Why doesn't everyone use conduits instead of warp drive if they work so damn well? Or are obvious questions not welcome on Star Trek Picard because they ruin the magic? So 7 of 9 opened another conduit and followed them there. She says, quote, "Because you needed our help." Picard and crew start trying to help get the Borg ship back online because they need the long-range scanners to see 219 Romulan warbirds are on their way. Yep, the Romulans managed to marshal a massive fleet that quickly. But they needed the Federation to evacuate their citizens? These cretins can't even remember their own premise. The whole series collapses that the Romulans don't need the Federation to save them. And they clearly didn't. So where does that leave Star Trek Picard? Up shit creek with a poop paddle. God, this show sucks. So Lamulus wants to go with Picard to Synth City to warn the synths, but Picard wants him to stay behind at the Borg cube almost as much as we do, since Lamulus is so annoying. Picard tells Lamulus to stay behind, try to get the defensive systems back online, but that makes no sense given that Lamulus doesn't know shit about that. A Romulan wood elf is gonna help the Borg with their tech? Is there a single writer working on this show? Hello? Bueller? McFly? Holy crap! Picard tells Lamulus that he's very proud of him. And 7 of 9 starts crying for some reason, presumably a different reason than Star Trek fans are crying. It is nauseating to see 7 of 9 crying that Picard is proud of Lamulus, especially since 7 of 9 never knew either of them. They're trying to act like she's crying because Picard is dying, but she doesn't know. She wasn't there for the speech, the big reveal. And since when was 7 of 9 a crier? Does anyone still think this is a sequel to anything other than Star Trek Discovery? So they go to Cybertown, and the ladies there that built the space orchids are doing Falun Gong or Tai Chi or some Kung Fu shit. And it's just so fucking swell. There's a goddamn NPR convention down there. And all the background synths look normal. Only the ones that Soji converses with have funny eyes, because funny eyes cost money, and And CBS ain't got none of that, as we know, watching the stock prices fall. So they remember Soji by name, and Soji introduces them to Picard and friends as happy music plays. Picard and friends tell the androids they have 2 days to make more orchids because the Romulans are coming. Maybe when they're blasting your planet apart, you can string those flowers together into leis and welcome them with a hula dance, you fucking hippies. Then Brett Spiner steps forward. Yes, Dr. Alton Indigo Sung has been building this civilization, which makes Bruce Maddox's murder even more ridiculous. Did Bruce Maddox even have anything to do with making the synths at all? This show can't even remember what it does from episode to episode. Soji tells Dr. Sung the whole story, but then Doc Savage Soji comes forward, a copy of Soji with bronze skin, and that's when things start going wrong. Predictably wrong, in a way that was so telegraphed since the start of the series that anyone who didn't see it coming, congratulations, you are now qualified to park in handicapped spaces. So Doc Savage Soji, the Woman of Bronze, whose name is actually Sutro, thinks that the admonition that got all the Romulans triggered, the ancient recording left on that planet that makes Romulans bash their own brains out in horror, is intended for synthetic life, and that's why organic life forms have trouble coping with it. And then Sutro proceeds to take a huge steaming dump all over Star Trek. See? Turns out Sutro has a passion for Vulcan culture, and as a result of this hobby, this artificial life form has taught herself the famous Vulcan mind meld. Fuck me. These morons! It's not like a parlor trick you can learn, like a card trick to amuse simpletons at a kid's birthday party while dressed in a clown suit. Vulcans have psychic abilities. You can't just read an instruction manual and do it. But hey, never mind. It's just Star Trek Picard. It's got nothing to do with Star Trek, right? Sutro mind melds with Agnes Girardi and clearly receives the message of the admonition. Organics perceive perfection as a threat, the admonition says. Beyond the boundaries of time and space, the admonishing voice says, an alliance of synthetic life awaits, watching you. Well, it's good someone's watching Star Trek Picard. Too bad humans aren't. The voice then concludes that this advanced synth civilization is simply waiting for the signal to swoop in and kill all organic life to protect the synths. Summon us and we will come. You will have our protection. Your evolution will be their extinction. Huh. Just like they've been telling us all along. And at the end of this mind meld, Sutro says, fascinating. So insulting and stupid. So now because she does a Vulcan mind meld, she's Spock? You see? Aside from being boring, aside from being stupid, aside from being cynical and ugly and downright dowdy, Star Trek Picard views Star Trek fans as rubes and Star Trek herself as a cheap hooker to be used to make a few bucks and then tossed aside. Hey, we'll use a few Star Trek catchphrases and these morons will just suck it up. They're too stupid to realize we're using them in their little Star Trek like toilet paper. These morons are anti-Star Trek in that Trek represented rationality and achievement, and Star Trek Picard is none of those things. Star Trek Picard is just a bitch turned out to be tricked, and it makes Johns of all the fans dumb enough to lay down with this whore. Enough of this trash, let's just sum up the rest. Agnes is shown a mechanical body. Sung asks her, hey, want to do an experimental mind transfer into this here body? She says sure. They catch Narek, the Romulan lounge lizard, but Sutro lets him go and kills one of her sisters, blaming it on him in order to get all the synths down with summoning the android lurkers from beyond to come kill everyone organic. Yep, that's right. Dr. Sung, forgetting he is organic, has built a transmitter with the right frequency to call in the advanced android civilization to come kill all the organic life in the universe. Picard makes a speech saying, no, don't do it. And Sutro says, nah, we're gonna do it. But lock up Picard, lest his eloquence move the other androids not to make the collect call to We Are Robopocalypse. Picard appeals to Soji to help, but nah. Soji's down with it, as it turns out. Though I'm sure she'll flip and stop it all from happening in the next episode, because she loves the crew she's known for all of what, a few days now? So tune in next week, folks, to see the Romulans attack, being met with resistance by the Borg cube that Lamulus used his non-existent expertise to help reactivate, and Soji will have a change of heart and stop Sutro from calling in the Elder Synths to destroy all life, saving us all in the nick of time. Oops, I forgot to say spoiler. Ah well. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry.
Ha 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 ha.